Joining us in studio right now to talk about the art of spoken word poetry is a really good friend of ours on the news team, Mr. Melvin Won Pat-Borja. Mel, good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so Sinaganta is something that, captivated the hearts and minds of so many people on the island. I will admit that a lot of people, when we first, met you a few years back, and you were having people like talk, and some people didn't get it, or some people said, it's a little bit too abrasive or anything. But a lot of people, especially in the younger generation, have accepted it as an art form, and a lot of people are involved right now. So how's it taken off, the movement?
I think that a lot of it is, like I think it's inherent human nature for us to want to express ourselves, to want to have people listen to us, and I think that spoken word is the perfect medium for that. It's a lot of times people do this kind of expression through music, and a lot of times music kind of you lose the message in the music a lot of times, and spoken word poetry is a pure focus on the word and the word alone, and I think that's the big thing, and for our community, we're an oral community, what I mean? We're rooted in oral tradition, and so, I think inherently we have that ability and that desire to want to communicate our message and to be heard. And so, I just feel like spoken word poetry in the islands is kind of a perfect match.
Well, of course, in your own work, you've done a fantastic job at mentoring a lot of the island's youth, like I said, at finding a way again to channel what they have to say internally and get some way of expressing it and everything. And of course, in your own poetry, you speak a lot about human rights issues, particularly to the Chamorro people. And I would say that probably the young people are probably going to follow in your footsteps at first and everything, but how are you seeing them branch off and and write their own material?
Well, I think that in my experience, for most young poets, they normally take a liking to a certain style or a certain type of writing, and eventually, they find their own voice. And I think that that's the big victory for us, is to help young people discover and learn how to use their own voice. Once they stop trying to be like someone else, they start being themselves. And I think that once
you find your own voice,
once that happens, then there's no stopping it, And so I think we've seen that a lot in a lot of our youth. So many of them, start, trying to imitate, and then eventually they start creating.
Sure.
And that's what it's all about.
Okay. Well, speaking of creative, you actually instruct a creative writing course down at Southern High, where you were a teacher. How is that going? And how do we get the rest of the island involved in it? Because you also do workshops.
Right. It's the creative writing class is great. We started it a couple years ago. Really, it was a result of the response to the poetry slams that we were holding in school. So we started doing in-school slams once a year, and the kids just really took a liking to it. And after a while, we approached administration and asked for a creative writing course, and the kids were really excited about it. Attendance has been high, and so it's been around since then. As far as the servicing the rest of the community, one of the major efforts that we made this year is to bring our writing workshops to the kids. Last year we started off with workshops, centralized workshop where the kids would come down. We're operating out of the Hural Academy, and it was a great run. But one of the things that we noticed was that we had really low attendance for kids up north. And we started to look into it and talk to the kids about what's preventing them from coming to the workshops, and it turned out it was really just a transportation issue. And so what we decided to do this year is to bring our workshops to them. And so now what we have running is a 10-week curriculum happening at each of the 5 public high schools. And one of our youth poets who's competed with us last year, Willow Y, he's actually running the GW workshop. So once a week we have a workshop happening after school at each of the public high schools, and our attendance is much better. So we have I'd say we have about 50 to 60 kids total participating in our after school workshops.
Okay, well that's a really good tease there, because stay tuned, my friends, because Mel's going to go ahead and take a seat, and we have Willa. He's going to talk about his experience going to Los Angeles and participating in spoken word poetry when KU News Extra continues.